Chosen one. This moment is not by accident. Have you ever wondered why, out of all your siblings, out of everyone in your family, you seem different, set apart, almost as though you were meant for something greater? Have you felt that pull deep inside, a call to something higher, something more profound, something beyond what others around you could see or understand? I'm here to tell you you're not imagining things. This isn't just a random coincidence, and no, you're not alone in feeling this way. This is your confirmation. God has chosen you for something powerful, something that surpasses ordinary expectations. As you sit here watching this message, realize that it was drawn to you for a reason. You were not meant to just stumble upon it. Spirit to spirit, this truth has been waiting for you to awaken to it. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And today, God is speaking directly to you. If you've been searching for answers, longing for clarity, praying for a sign, this is it. This is your moment of activation. You've probably asked yourself more than once, why me, God? You may have seen others in your family living ordinary lives, feeling like they had it easier, while you've carried a weight they could never understand. But I need you to hear this clearly. God's choice is based on your purpose, not your position. He didn't choose you because you were perfect. He chose you because of the unique calling that rests on your life. You were chosen to carry a mantle that others around you may never grasp. While others chase approval and comfort, you've always sought meaning. While others lived life on the surface, you've been drawn to the deeper truths. And now, you are awakening to your true purpose. Right now, I want you to take a deep breath and truly sit with this message. If it resonates in your spirit, if this truth is stirring something deep within you, I want you to comment below. Type 777 if you feel the presence of divine confirmation, or 404 if this message speaks directly to your heart, confirming that you are indeed the chosen one. You were never meant to be ordinary, and today marks the beginning of your journey into the fullness of your divine purpose. This is more than just a video. It's a divine call, and you're exactly where you need to be right at this moment, listening to this message that is meant just for you. It's not uncommon to feel different, to feel as though you don't quite belong, even in your own family. You've likely asked yourself time and time again, why do I feel so set apart? Why, when you look around at your siblings or those closest to you, does everything seem so different? You grew up in the same house, ate at the same table, and shared the same experiences. And yet something about your journey felt entirely different. The way you saw the world, the questions you asked, and the longing that stirred within your spirit set you apart in ways you couldn't fully explain. These feelings of separation aren't merely a coincidence or an isolated experience. They are the very signs that something much deeper is at work in your life. If you've ever felt like you were the black sheep in your family, misunderstood or out of sync with those around you, it's not a sign of your inadequacy. It's a sign of your divine calling. The truth is, you've always been different. You've always felt a pull towards something greater, something higher. And it's because God has designed you with a purpose that could never be fulfilled by following the same path as everyone else. From the very beginning, you've probably felt it, a subtle yet undeniable sense of being different. In your family, your circle of friends, or even in your relationships, you couldn't shake the feeling that you were somehow out of sync with the world around you. While others seemed content with their lives, following the predictable paths of school popularity and climbing the social or professional ladder, you were restless. Your spirit was always reaching for something more, something deeper than the surface-level pursuits that seemed to captivate everyone else. It was as if your soul knew that there was more to life than what was immediately visible, more than the daily routine and expectations everyone else seemed to follow without question. Your siblings or peers were likely focused on fitting in, following the crowd, or gaining approval. Meanwhile, you were asking bigger questions. You longed for meaning that transcended the mundane, the kind of meaning that reached beyond what could be seen, beyond the superficial or material. You found yourself searching for a deeper connection, whether with the world around you or with the divine. And yet at times it felt like no one else could see or feel it in the same way. There were moments when you probably felt like an outsider, almost as if you were standing on the edge of the world, watching it unfold around you. While others moved with the flow of the crowd, you stood still contemplating the deeper mysteries of existence. It wasn't that you couldn't engage in everyday life, but it felt as though something wasn't quite right, like everyone else was operating on a different wavelength. These feelings weren't signs of weakness or confusion, they were signs of something far more profound. They were indicators of your sensitivity to the spiritual realms and awareness of energies and truths that the world around you couldn't see or understand. This heightened sense of awareness was not a random trait. From an early age, you were attuned to things others couldn't pick up on. While most people were distracted by what could be touched, measured, and seen, you were drawn to what lay beneath the surface, the intangible, the invisible forces that guide the world. You could feel these energies deep within your soul. It wasn't something you consciously sought, but rather something that you were born with, a gift, not a burden. And though it might have made you feel different or separate from others, this was part of the divine calling on your life. Unlike your siblings, who may have been more content to live within the structures and expectations of society, you weren't satisfied with just the basics. The answers that everyone else accepted without question didn't hold the same weight for you. You found yourself yearning for something deeper, something more meaningful. You could sense when things were out of alignment, when the truth was being hidden behind a mask, or when someone's intentions weren't pure. This sensitivity to what others might miss is something that has marked you spiritually, something that has set you apart from those around you. There were likely times when you tried to ignore this feeling, when you tried to blend in to fit into the molds others created. Perhaps you even convinced yourself that you needed to follow the same path, seek the same approval, and embrace the same values. But no matter how hard you tried, your spirit couldn't quiet itself. The deeper calling within you, whether you understood it fully or not, refused to be ignored. You couldn't push it aside because your sensitivity is a divine gift. It wasn't meant to be a burden to carry. It was meant to guide you towards something greater than what you could see at the time. It was the essence of who you were, and it separated you spiritually from the rest of your family and peers. This separation, though it may have felt isolating, wasn't something to mourn or resist. In fact, this spiritual difference is what has prepared you for the path you are walking. You might have questioned it, wondering why you couldn't just fit in, why you couldn't just accept life as it was. But you were never meant to blend in with everyone else. You weren't chosen to live a life defined by the ordinary or the expected. You were set apart for a higher purpose, a purpose that would take you to places others cannot follow, and lead you to answers that others are not ready to hear. Being set apart doesn't mean being excluded from the world, or cut off from love or family. Instead, it means being chosen for something that requires a different perspective, a different way of seeing and interacting with the world. Your divine calling is what set you apart, not your faults or imperfections. It's the fact that your soul was meant for greater things, meant to carry a purpose that transcends what can be seen and understood by those around you. While your family and friends may have been content with the surface-level concerns that so often preoccupy people's lives, you were destined for something deeper. Your path was never going to be ordinary. Your sensitivity, your spiritual awareness, and your quest for meaning were never mistakes. They were markers of your calling. The loneliness you felt, the distance you sensed between yourself and others, was not meant to break you. It was meant to prepare you. It was a necessary part of your spiritual training. God allowed this separation because He needed you to be free from the distractions and the noise that would have clouded your vision. He needed you to see things that others couldn't see, feel things that others couldn't feel, and to hear His voice in ways that others couldn't. If you've ever wondered why you were different, why your journey seemed so unique, know this: you were called to walk a path that others couldn't follow. You were set apart to fulfill a divine purpose that requires a deeper sensitivity to the spiritual realm and the courage to follow God's calling, even when it means going against the flow of the world around you. And while this path may feel lonely at times, it is the very path that will lead you to the fulfillment of the divine destiny God has planned for you. Your sensitivity, your desire for meaning, your spiritual awareness, all of these things are part of what makes you special. They are not flaws or burdens. They are the tools that will guide you in your purpose. And as you continue to walk this path, you will see how everything you've experienced, every moment of isolation, every time you felt misunderstood, has been shaping you into the person you were always meant to be. You were not called to live an ordinary life. You were set apart because your spiritual path leads to something greater than what you can see right now. Trust that every experience, every challenge, and every moment of doubt has been part of your preparation for the incredible calling that lies ahead. You are different for a reason, and that reason is divine. Now it's time to embrace the purpose behind your separation. It's easy to feel isolated or misunderstood when others around you don't see what you see or feel what you feel. Perhaps your family has questioned your intensity, your quietness, or your need for solitude. They may have wondered why you didn't fit into the mold they expected you to fill. But this wasn't by accident, and it wasn't because you weren't good enough. On the contrary, it's because God saw something in you that others couldn't. He saw your potential to carry a weight that others couldn't bear, and He knew that you would rise to the occasion even when things got tough. God doesn't choose people based on their popularity, appearance, or status in the family. He doesn't choose based on how many people love them or how easily they fit into the world's mold. God chooses based on purpose. And when He looked at your life, He didn't just see you as a member of your family. He saw you as the one who could carry a spiritual responsibility that others might not be equipped for. He saw the one who could endure the challenges that would break others. He saw the one who could rise after being knocked down, the one who could bring light to the darkness, and the one who could see the unseen and hear the unheard. You were chosen because God knew you had a strength within you that others didn't possess. While others may have been distracted by worldly concerns, you were always able to tune into the deeper frequencies of the world. You could feel the pull of a higher calling even when others didn't understand it. And though it may have felt like isolation, it was actually divine protection, preparation for the purpose that awaited you. The things you've gone through, the moments when you felt alone or misunderstood, were all part of God's plan to shape and strengthen you for what lies ahead. The pain you endured, the struggles you faced, the isolation you felt, all of it was divine training for your spiritual mission. This wasn't punishment. This was preparation. You were being refined, strengthened, and fortified to step into the calling that God had set apart for you long before you were even born. You see, God doesn't call us to the hard paths because He wants us to suffer. He calls us to them because He knows what we're capable of. And He knows that we need to be prepared to carry out the purpose He has for us. When others in your family were chasing approval, you were learning to stand on your own. When others were fighting over petty matters, you were learning to see the world through a lens of divine clarity. And in your solitude, in your moments of quiet reflection, God was speaking to you, shaping you, and building your spirit for the task ahead. God's protection was in the very isolation you experienced. While your family might have seen your separation as a flaw, it was actually a form of divine intervention. He separated you so that He could mold you into the leader, the healer, and the intercessor you were destined to become. In that solitude, you learned to rely on Him, to hear His voice more clearly, and to understand the spiritual warfare that surrounds you. As a result, you've become spiritually stronger than anyone could have imagined. Where others may have been distracted by the noise of the world, you've learned to tune into the whispers of God. And while your family might have been preoccupied with their own concerns, you've been learning how to be sensitive to the needs of others, how to pray when no one else is praying, and how to carry burdens that others could not bear. The path you've walked has been anything but easy. But as you look back, you'll see that every challenge, every moment of rejection, and every time you felt abandoned was part of your preparation. It was God's way of building your resilience, your faith, and your discernment. It was His way of preparing you to carry the mantle of leadership not only in your family, but in the world at large. And now, as you stand at the threshold of your divine purpose, it's time to recognize that everything you've been through, every moment of struggle and isolation, was not in vain. It was all for this moment. You were separated not because you were broken, but because God was preparing you to carry something greater than you ever thought possible. You were chosen not in spite of your differences, but because of them. You were chosen because God knew you could handle the weight, and He knew you would rise. The separation you've felt was never meant to break you. It was meant to build you. And now, as you embrace your spiritual identity, you can see that everything has been leading up to this moment, your awakening, your calling, and the purpose you were born to fulfill. When you reflect on your life, especially the earlier years, it's impossible to ignore the hardships, the challenges, the deep moments of pain that shaped who you are today. You've felt the sting of rejection, abandonment, and betrayal, often by those who were supposed to love you the most. You've experienced the crushing weight of misunderstanding from your family, the ones who should have seen you for who you were. Instead, they saw your sensitivity, your depth, your difference, and often mistook it for weakness. They didn't understand the spiritual calling that was planted within you from birth. And because they didn't understand, they may have pushed you away or even belittled your dreams. But here's the truth. Every moment of pain was part of your training. Every tear you shed, every time you felt alone or rejected, was preparing you for the divine assignment ahead. What others saw as weaknesses, God was using to refine you. The challenges you faced in childhood, though difficult and painful, were never meant to break you. They were meant to build you. They were the forge in which your spirit was strengthened. The rejection. It was a shield that taught you resilience. The abandonment. It taught you how to rely on God and how to grow stronger in your faith. The betrayal. It shaped your ability to discern truth from deception and to recognize that not everyone who is close to you is meant to stay with you on the journey. These experiences weren't random. They were divinely orchestrated moments designed to prepare you for the extraordinary purpose God has for you. From a very young age, it seems like life threw everything at you. While others around you may have experienced a somewhat normal childhood, one filled with the usual highs and lows, your experience was different. The emotional storms you weathered were far more intense, and it often felt like you were standing alone against a world that didn't quite understand you. Maybe you were the child who questioned everything, who sought meaning in places where others saw nothing but routine. Perhaps you were the one who felt things deeply more so than anyone else in your family, and this emotional depth was often misinterpreted as being too sensitive or too much. But it was in these early moments that your spiritual radar began to sharpen. The times when you were ignored, overlooked, or even misunderstood were the times when God was quietly working within you. These moments weren't meant to crush your spirit. They were meant to forge it. You were being trained for something greater, something far beyond the ordinary life your family may have envisioned for you. Each experience, no matter how painful, was shaping you into someone who could walk through fire without being burned. The rejection you felt wasn't a sign of your unworthiness, but rather a divine appointment to help you grow in spiritual stamina. Every time someone turned their back on you, you were learning to stand tall on your own, relying on God's strength and not the approval of others. The abandonment wasn't meant to leave you empty. It was meant to teach you self-sufficiency in the Lord. And the betrayal. It wasn't to wound you. It was to teach you how to forgive, to trust God, even when human relationships fail. These experiences, no matter how painful, were the divine foundation for the purpose God was building in you. You may not have seen it then, but every challenge, every moment of feeling alone or misunderstood was part of your divine preparation. The storm wasn't meant to break you, it was meant to refine you. But the deeper reality is that all of these painful experiences, all of this loneliness was part of something much bigger, your calling. God has always known who you are. He has always seen the depth of your spirit and the power within you. And even though it may not have made sense to you at the time, He has been using every single experience to call you closer to the life He has ordained for you. You were always meant for this. Being chosen is not just about having a unique or difficult path. It is about being given a spiritual assignment that will shape not only your life but the lives of those around you. You've always been different, and that difference is not a curse. It's a blessing. From a young age, you probably experienced things that others around you didn't. You had dreams that were vivid, sometimes prophetic. You had insights and discernments that no one around you seemed to understand. You might have seen things in people that others missed. You could feel the unseen forces at work, in situations sensing the truth behind the lies. This wasn't coincidence. It was divine calling. Perhaps you've wondered why you've always felt so different from the rest of your family, why it seemed like everyone around you could just go along with life while you were constantly searching for something deeper, something more meaningful. That feeling, that sense of being set apart, was never an accident. It was your spiritual calling, your purpose stirring within you long before you even realized it. You've likely had moments of deep spiritual insight, moments where you could sense things about people, situations, or even the world itself that others couldn't grasp. You might have wondered why others didn't see what you saw, why they didn't feel what you felt. This spiritual sensitivity is a sign of your calling. It's a mark of the divine purpose that has been placed on your life. It's not something you asked for, but it's something you've always carried. And you've carried it well, even when you didn't understand it yourself. Your dreams have been filled with visions that many couldn't comprehend. You've had moments of clarity where the world around you seemed to pause, and you saw things in a new light. While others may have been sleeping, you were awake, spiritually awake, to the deeper truths of life. You may have been laughed at, or dismissed for being too much or too deep, but it was never about your actions. It was about your divine frequency. You were tuned to a different spiritual wavelength, and that's why you couldn't just blend in with the crowd. God has been calling you for this very moment. This spiritual discernment, this deep knowing, this heightened sensitivity to the unseen world is not a random trait. It is a divine gift. God has marked you from birth. Even when you were a child, you were being trained to carry this gift. Those moments when you felt different, when you asked questions that others didn't, or when you saw the world through a unique lens, were all signs of the divine calling on your life. It wasn't just a fleeting feeling, it was the beginning of your awakening. It was the moment when God began to activate the purpose that He had set apart for you. Now that you are beginning to understand, you can look back with a new perspective. You were always different for a reason. The spiritual insights, the dreams, the deep knowing, these were never coincidences. They were part of your divine training. You may have felt alienated or disconnected from your family at times, but this wasn't because you were flawed. It was because your spiritual path was always meant to be unique. Your calling required that you be able to see what others could not, to hear what others could not, and to feel what others were numbing themselves to. Your family may not have understood it then, and they may not understand it now. But you were never meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be understood by God. And He has equipped you with everything you need for the journey ahead. The road you are walking may seem lonely, but that is not a curse. It is a divine assignment. You were chosen to walk this path because you are equipped for it. You are not only strong enough to endure the challenges ahead, you were designed for them. So let's take a moment and reflect on the signs you've experienced. The struggles, the pain, the moments of clarity, the dreams that spoke to you in ways no one else could understand. They are all part of your divine calling. Everything you've experienced, every feeling of difference, every time you felt set apart, was God's way of preparing you for the powerful spiritual role He has for you. The separation you felt was never an obstacle. It was a preparation. In the next chapter of your journey, you will begin to see that these signs are not just reminders of your struggles, they are the very markers of your destiny. The spiritual calling that has marked your life since the beginning is now ready to be embraced in its fullness, and with that, the true depth of your purpose will be revealed. But first, you must understand that everything you have experienced up until now has been preparing you for this very moment. The calling on your life is not just a personal one, it's a legacy. And the work you've been chosen to do is far greater than you could have ever imagined. If there's one thing you've learned through your journey, it's this: being chosen often means walking a road that feels long and lonely. There have been moments in your life when you felt isolated, misunderstood, and rejected. It's a pain that goes deeper than just being excluded from a conversation or being left out of a family event. It's the kind of loneliness that cuts to the very core of your spirit, leaving you questioning your worth, your purpose, and whether you are truly meant to carry the burden of this calling. Yet, this loneliness, this isolation, is not something to fear. It's not a sign of your inadequacy or your failure. It is a necessary part of your spiritual preparation. It is the refining fire through which God shapes you into the person you are destined to become. It's the price of vision, the weight you must carry to walk in your divine calling. Rejection has been one of the most painful battles you've faced. And it wasn't just the rejection from strangers or distant acquaintances. It was the rejection from those you loved most, your family. The very people who should have supported you, who should have seen the divine light in you, were often the ones who misunderstood you, dismissed you, or even ridiculed you for being different. They couldn't see the divine calling on your life. They couldn't understand your deep spiritual hunger, your need for more, your quest for meaning that went beyond the surface of everyday life. They didn't understand your sensitivity, your ability to feel the things they couldn't feel, and they may have even labeled you as too much or too deep. This rejection, though painful, is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of your uniqueness. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand apart, to be different, to carry a light that would challenge the darkness around you. But that doesn't make it easier. The sting of rejection from those you love is sharp, especially when you long for their understanding, their support, and their validation. It can feel like you're walking a solitary path, even when you're surrounded by people who should care for you. But here's the truth. Rejection is part of your divine journey. While others may have turned their backs on you, God has always been there, walking beside you, preparing you for a role that only you can fulfill. You were never meant to be fully understood by everyone, especially by those who are still caught in the chaos of the world's distractions. And though it hurts, rejection is actually a form of divine protection. It is God's way of ensuring that you remain focused on your purpose. He is cutting away the distractions, the voices that would seek to pull you off course, and guiding you toward the path that leads to your true calling. As you've walked through rejection, you've also learned resilience. You've learned to stand tall even when those around you were too blind to see your worth. You've learned that your value doesn't come from external validation, but from the divine purpose that God has planted deep within you. This rejection, though painful, has given you the strength to rise above the opinions of others and to stay true to the calling that only you can carry. This spiritual warfare, this battle with rejection, is a battle you've already begun to win. And the victory is not in being accepted by the world, but in being obedient to your calling regardless of the opposition. You may have faced rejection, but you've also faced it with a strength that only God can provide. And that strength is what will carry you through the rest of your journey. The internal conflict you've faced has likely been one of the most challenging and profound struggles of your life. You've found yourself constantly torn between honoring your family and honoring your divine calling. On one hand, there's a deep inherent desire to be loved and accepted by your family. You want to fit in, to be understood, and to be seen for who you truly are. You crave the sense of belonging that comes with being in harmony with those you hold dear. But on the other hand, there's a quiet, unshakable knowing deep within you, a knowing that you were meant for something different, something far greater than what your family might have envisioned for you. It's as if there's a part of you that has always known from the very core of your being that your spiritual path would lead you to places where your family might not follow. This divine calling is not one you've chosen. It's one that has been woven into your spirit from the beginning of time. But embracing this calling has not always been easy, especially when it means stepping away from the expectations that have been placed on you by those who love you. You've found yourself in the uncomfortable space of choosing between honoring your family's desires and honoring the higher purpose that God has set before you. There have been moments, likely more than once, when you've felt guilty for not being able to conform to what was expected of you. Maybe you've felt as though you were disappointing those around you by not living up to their expectations, by not following the same path they thought you should take. You've struggled with the feeling of being misunderstood, of wanting to honor your family's love and approval, yet realizing that their expectations don't align with the path that God has called you to walk. The tension of this internal conflict can feel like a weight too heavy to carry. It's the pain of being torn between loyalty to your family and loyalty to your divine calling, and it often feels like no matter what you do, you can't satisfy both. But this inner battle is where spiritual warfare truly begins. The real battle is not just against the external rejection or misunderstandings from others. The real fight is the one happening deep within your soul. It's the tension between your desire to please others, especially your family, and your understanding that you've been called to fulfill something greater than yourself. This is the internal conflict that gnaws at you, the one that makes you question yourself and your purpose. It's the tension between wanting to fit in and knowing that you were never meant to conform to the world's expectations or even the expectations of your loved ones. It's easy to think that feeling torn between these two worlds means you are weak or indecisive. But let me assure you, this internal conflict is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of your strength and growth. It's the mark of someone who is learning to discern between the temporal and the eternal, between what is comfortable and what is divinely ordained. It's the ability to recognize the difference between what the world says you should do and what God has uniquely called you to do. You are learning to see beyond the surface, to make decisions that align with your higher purpose, even if those decisions are difficult. You see, this battle between honoring your family and honoring your calling is one that only you can fight. No one else can fight it for you. This is your spiritual journey, your divine test, and no one can walk this path for you. The beauty of it is God has already equipped you with everything you need to win this battle. He has given you the strength, the discernment, and the courage to make the difficult decisions, even when they hurt. This internal conflict is, in essence, a test of your spiritual maturity. It is a test to see if you will trust God enough to follow Him even when the road is hard and the path is unclear. It's a test of your obedience, a challenge to see if you are willing to lay down your own desires and your desire for approval in order to walk in the divine plan that God has written for your life. And though the road will not be easy, God will not leave you to fight this battle alone. He has been with you every step of the way, even when you didn't recognize it. The moments when you felt conflicted or lost were the moments when God was molding you, shaping you, and preparing you for the journey ahead. He knows the weight of the decision you're making, and He will continue to give you the strength and clarity to move forward in obedience to His calling. When you feel like giving up, when you feel like the weight of the decision is too heavy to bear, remember that God is right there beside you, giving you the grace to move forward step by step. As you move forward, you will begin to understand that this internal conflict is not something to fear. It is not a sign that you are failing or that you are on the wrong path. In fact, this struggle is part of your spiritual preparation. It's a process that is molding you into the leader, the visionary, and the spiritual warrior you were born to be. This internal conflict is shaping your character, strengthening your resolve, and giving you the ability to see the deeper truths that others cannot see. You are being prepared for the responsibility of your calling, and this process is refining you for the incredible work ahead. When you come out of this battle, when you have made peace with your decision to walk the path God has set before you, you will have a deeper understanding of who you are. You will see your identity more clearly. You will understand the purpose that God has placed in your heart, and you will step into the authority He has equipped you with. This internal struggle is not a sign of failure, but a test of your character and your spiritual maturity. It's a test of your willingness to follow God no matter the cost. And the beauty is, you are passing the test. Every step you take, every decision you make, is leading you closer to the person God has called you to be. When you emerge from this internal battle, you will be stronger, wiser, and more spiritually grounded than ever before. And with that strength, you will step into your divine calling with boldness and confidence, knowing that you are walking in God's purpose for your life. One of the most profound aspects of your journey is how God has been protecting and preparing you every step of the way. Even when you didn't see it, even when you couldn't feel it, God has been with you, watching over you and shaping you for the divine calling on your life. Every challenge, every moment of rejection, every time you felt alone, it was all part of His plan to prepare you for what lies ahead. God's protection is not always obvious, but it's always present. It's the subtle hand that shields you from harm, the whisper that guides you when you don't know where to go, the unseen force that strengthens you when you're ready to give up. Divine protection isn't just about keeping you safe from physical harm, it's about preserving your spirit for the work that God has set apart for you. The challenges you've faced weren't meant to break you. They were meant to prepare you for the responsibility that comes with being the spiritual leader in your family. God knew that you could handle it. He knew that you would rise even when you were knocked down. He knew that you would find strength in Him, and that your obedience would pave the way for future generations. Your spirit has been shaped, refined, and strengthened through every battle, every trial, and every moment of spiritual warfare. You've been protected not just from the enemy, but from the distractions, the lies, and the influences that would have led you astray. God has been refining you in the fire, preparing you for the weight of the calling He has placed on your life. You may not have always understood why things happened the way they did, but as you look back, you'll see the divine hand of protection in every moment. God has been guarding your heart, protecting your spirit, and preparing you for a role that no one else could fulfill. The spiritual protection He's given you has been essential for your growth. It's what's allowed you to rise above the noise, to stay true to your calling, and to move forward even when everything around you seemed to be falling apart. Now, as you begin to step into the fullness of your divine calling, you will see that God's protection has been preparing you for this moment. You are not just a survivor of your past, you are a conqueror equipped with the wisdom, the strength, and the spiritual authority to lead and guide others. The protection you've received has fortified you for the battles ahead, and the preparation you've gone through has given you the tools you need to walk boldly in your divine calling. You've faced rejection. You've battled internal conflict. You've walked through spiritual warfare and come out stronger on the other side. And through it all, God has been preparing you for something greater, something that is beyond your understanding, beyond your family's expectations, and beyond what you thought was possible. The divine protection you've experienced has shaped you into a spiritual warrior. The internal battles you've fought have refined your character and prepared you for the spiritual leadership you were born to carry. And now, as you stand in the fullness of your calling, you can embrace the truth: you were chosen for this. The road has been long, and the battle has been fierce. But you've overcome. And now it's time to rise, to step into your divine purpose, and to walk in the authority that God has placed on your life. The world may not understand it. Your family may not always agree with it. But your calling is greater than their approval. It's greater than any rejection you've faced. It's greater than any battle you've fought. Now is your time. Your spiritual inheritance is waiting for you. Your divine purpose is ready to be fulfilled. And with God's protection and preparation, you will walk in victory no matter what challenges come your way. The battle is over, chosen one. Now it's time to walk boldly in your calling. As you continue your journey of understanding and embracing your divine calling, you must come to a powerful realization. Spiritual authority is not determined by birth order or family traditions. It is based on divine purpose. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that leadership influence or spiritual responsibility is determined by the world's standards, including your position within the family hierarchy. But God's view of spiritual rank is radically different. The chosen ones are not the ones who fit the conventional molds, who adhere to societal expectations, or who have been born into the right family roles. Spiritual authority is about purpose, not position. When we look at the Bible, we see this truth exemplified time and time again. Take David, for example. He was the youngest of his brothers, overlooked and underestimated by everyone, even his own father. When Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel, David wasn't even considered worthy to be called in from the field. His father Jesse didn't even think he was the one who would be chosen. But God saw what no one else could see: David's heart, his willingness to obey, and his divine purpose. God didn't choose David because of his birth order, his family status, or his worldly qualifications. He chose him because David had the heart of a king, and that was the only qualification that mattered to God. Similarly, Joseph was chosen by God to lead, despite being the second youngest son in a family with many older brothers. His own brothers, driven by jealousy, sold him into slavery, but God used that betrayal to elevate Joseph to a position of great power in Egypt. His rise to power was not based on birth order or family loyalty. It was based on God's sovereign plan, and Joseph's faithfulness to that plan, even through hardship and persecution. Joseph's journey was difficult and painful, but his spiritual authority, which was given to him by God, was not something that could be taken away by the actions of his family. What we learn from both David and Joseph is that spiritual authority transcends family dynamics. While the world may judge us by where we were born, by our place in the family, or by our societal status, God does not. He looks at our hearts, our willingness to obey, and our ability to carry out his divine purpose. And just as with David and Joseph, your spiritual rank does not depend on where you stand in your family's pecking order. It depends on the calling God has placed on your life. For many, this truth can be difficult to accept, because we've been conditioned by the world, and often by our families, to think that spiritual authority must follow a certain order. Maybe you've been overlooked by your siblings, passed over in favor of others, who seemed more popular or powerful in the eyes of your family. Perhaps you've struggled with the feeling that you've been denied the opportunity to lead simply because you were born into the wrong position. But God's perspective is radically different. His view of your role in the family is not shaped by the order in which you were born, by who is loved more, or by who has the loudest voice. God sees you as the one who has been chosen for the divine purpose He set out before you were even born. It is not about fitting into your family's expectations. It's about fulfilling the role God has ordained for you, even if it means breaking free from family traditions and norms. God's view of family dynamics is about purpose, not position. As the chosen one, your role within your family might be to break generational cycles that have held your family captive for generations. It might mean that you are the one who carries the spiritual mantle, the one who sees the patterns, the cycles, and the generational curses that need to be broken. Your spiritual authority is not based on your place in the family order. It is based on your ability to discern God's purpose and walk in obedience to that calling, regardless of what others expect from you. This can be incredibly difficult when family dynamics are entrenched in certain roles and expectations. The firstborn might feel entitled to lead, or the family might have placed others in positions of power because of their social status, wealth, or influence. But your spiritual rank is not bound by these expectations. You were not chosen to conform to the mold your family created for you. You were chosen to break the mold, to disrupt the cycles that have kept your family from walking fully in the freedom and purpose God has intended for them. It's important to understand that spiritual authority does not require permission from others. When God chooses you for a purpose, He does not ask for anyone's approval. This can be challenging, especially when those around you, especially family members, may not understand your calling or the spiritual path you've been called to walk. But you must trust that God's calling on your life is enough. The authority He has placed in you is not up for debate. It is divinely ordained and cannot be shaken by the opinions of others. So what does it mean to be the spiritual leader in your family? What does it mean to carry this divine calling, especially when the world or even your own family doesn't seem to recognize it? You are called to be the spiritual gatekeeper. The spiritual gatekeeper is the one who holds the key to the spiritual well-being of their family. They are the ones who can discern the spiritual atmosphere of their home, the ones who can see the cycles of generational patterns that have kept the family bound. You have been given the responsibility of seeing what others cannot see, the spiritual dynamics that are at play in your family's life. And with that responsibility comes the authority to break those cycles and create a new spiritual legacy for future generations. As the spiritual gatekeeper, your role is to protect your family from spiritual harm. This means that you must stand guard over the spiritual atmosphere in your home, guarding it against negative influences, false teachings, and anything that might draw your family away from God's plan for them. You are the one who has been given the spiritual discernment to see what needs to be broken, whether that's generational curses, toxic patterns, or spiritual strongholds, and to stand in the gap for your family, praying for their healing, freedom, and restoration. This is not an easy task. It is one that requires spiritual maturity, discernment, and unwavering faith. But God has equipped you for this role. He has given you the ability to see beyond the surface, to recognize the hidden forces at work, and to act in obedience to His will, even when it's difficult. As the spiritual gatekeeper, you are the one who can break the generational chains that have bound your family for so long. You are the one who can usher in a new season of spiritual freedom, healing, and restoration. Being the spiritual gatekeeper also means that you will likely face resistance. Your family may not understand why you're doing what you're doing, or they may try to pull you back into old patterns. They may not see the importance of breaking certain cycles, or may even resist your spiritual leadership. But this is where your obedience matters most. The role of the spiritual gatekeeper is not to win approval from others. It is to stand firm in your calling and to trust that God will honor your obedience. The responsibility of the spiritual gatekeeper is weighty. It is not a position of power for the sake of power. It is a position of service. As the gatekeeper, you are called to serve your family through prayer, intercession, and spiritual leadership. You are the one who brings the light of God's truth into dark places, who shines a light on the patterns that need to change, and who prays for the breakthrough that your family so desperately needs. You may be the only one who sees what needs to be done, and you may feel alone in your calling. But remember, God has chosen you for this purpose. The burden may be heavy, but you are equipped for it. And as you walk in this calling, you will begin to see the fruit of your labor. You will see the walls that have kept your family bound start to fall. You will see hearts soften, relationships healed, and generations transformed. One of the most profound responsibilities you carry as a spiritual gatekeeper is the task of breaking generational curses. These curses are not mere coincidences. They are patterns of sin, bondage, and dysfunction that have been passed down from generation to generation. They take root in families and manifest in countless forms, whether through addiction, poverty, broken relationships, spiritual blindness, or cycles of fear and anger. The thing about these generational curses is that they can feel ingrained like a part of the family's very DNA. But as the chosen one, you have been given the authority to break them. You may have noticed these patterns in your own family, the way certain behaviors, addictions, or emotional wounds seem to repeat from one generation to the next. Perhaps it's the anger that never fully heals, or the addiction that seems to pass from one relative to the next, like an unspoken inheritance. It could be cycles of bitterness, broken marriages, or an overwhelming sense of spiritual blindness, where no one seems to truly see the light of truth or live in the fullness of God's promises. These patterns may feel familiar, almost as if they are woven into the very fabric of your family's existence. But they are not random. They are spiritual strongholds passed down from one generation to the next, continuing their grip on your family unless someone rises up to break them. As the spiritual gatekeeper, you are the one who has been chosen to confront these strongholds head-on. You have the divine authority to break these cycles and declare freedom over your family. You are not here by accident. You were specifically chosen to carry this responsibility. Your prayers, your faith, and your obedience are powerful tools in the battle against these deep-rooted curses. And God has already equipped you with everything you need to overcome them. The first step in breaking generational curses is recognizing the strongholds that have taken root in your family. These curses often manifest in ways that are hard to ignore, but they can also be subtle, hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. As the spiritual gatekeeper, you have been given the ability to discern these hidden forces. You might recognize the signs in the way relationships seem to repeat the same patterns of dysfunction, or in the way financial struggles continue to plague your family generation after generation. The patterns of dysfunction can be complex. You may see the same destructive behavior cropping up in your family over and over again. Perhaps it's the fear of failure that paralyzes everyone in your family, or the bitterness that keeps people from forgiving each other. These strongholds are often deeply embedded, influencing choices and shaping the way family members interact with each other. But as the one chosen to carry God's light and truth, you have the power to shine light on these hidden forces and confront them. These generational curses may feel like they are too big to overcome, but they are not. No curse is stronger than the power of God. Through your prayers, faith, and obedience, you are called to declare freedom over every member of your family. It's time to speak truth into these areas of bondage, to bring healing to those wounds, and to break the chains that have held your family captive for so long. Breaking generational curses requires deep spiritual warfare. It is not an easy task. It is a battle that takes place in the spiritual realm and affects the physical realm as well. These curses have been entrenched for years, and breaking them will require more than just surface-level efforts. You must stand firm in prayer, standing in the gap for your family, and declaring God's truth over every person who has been affected by the generational curse. Prayer is your greatest weapon in this battle. Through prayer, you align yourself with God's will, and He empowers you to break the chains that have held your family back for generations. The resistance you may face in this process can come in two forms: external and internal. Externally, your family may resist change, especially if they are not yet spiritually awake to the power of what you are doing. Some may question your actions or even mock the spiritual authority you are taking. Internally, you may struggle with doubt, fear, or the weight of carrying such a heavy responsibility. But remember, this God has already equipped you for this. You are not fighting this battle alone. He is with you, empowering you to stand firm and continue the fight, even when it seems impossible. Your faith is one of the most powerful weapons in breaking generational curses. Faith unlocks the power of God to move in your life. The more you trust in His power, the more you will see breakthrough. It is through your faith that these strongholds begin to crumble. Your belief in God's ability to heal, restore, and transform will be the foundation upon which your family's freedom rests. You are stepping into a new season of spiritual authority, where your prayers will move mountains. Obedience also plays a crucial role in this process. You must remain obedient to the leading of the Holy Spirit as you walk through this battle. This means listening to God's voice, following His guidance, and remaining steadfast in His will, even when it seems difficult or when you don't see immediate results. God will honor your obedience, and He will honor your willingness to stand in the gap for your family. This battle is not about your strength. It's about God's strength, working through you. As you walk in your spiritual authority, you will begin to see the chains that have bound your family members start to break. You will see people who have been held captive by fear, addiction, or dysfunction experience true freedom. The cycle of brokenness and bondage will begin to lift as you walk in the authority God has given you. Generational curses can only remain if we allow them to. Your willingness to confront them head-on, to declare victory over them, and to stand firm in your faith will pave the way for your family's breakthrough. You will see your loved ones transformed. Those who have been held back by the lies of the enemy will experience the freedom that comes with walking in the light of God's truth. And as you break these curses, you are creating a new legacy. You are setting the foundation for a new generation that will walk in freedom, strength, and spiritual maturity. The legacy you are building is not one of bondage and dysfunction. It is one of healing, peace, and spiritual strength. You are planting seeds for future generations to walk in the fullness of God's plan for their lives. The legacy you leave will be one of freedom, not just for you, but for your children, grandchildren, and beyond. Breaking generational curses is not the end of the journey. It is just the beginning. As you declare freedom over your family, you are also creating space for new growth, new healing, and new possibilities. The power of God's truth will continue to flow through your family, bringing healing to wounds that have been carried for generations. You are not just breaking old patterns, you are creating new pathways for future generations to follow. As you walk in this newfound freedom, know that you have the power to continue to lead your family towards spiritual healing. God has chosen you to be the one who breaks the chains and ushers in a new season of freedom, peace, and purpose. The work you are doing now will echo throughout generations, and it will be a testimony to the power of God's transformative love. Remember, you are not just breaking generational curses, you are building a legacy of freedom. This is your divine mission, and with God's strength and guidance, you will see it through. The legacy you leave will be one of healing, spiritual awakening, and a deep connection to God. Keep fighting, keep praying, and keep declaring freedom. The victory is already yours. In understanding your spiritual rank, you are being invited to step into your role as the spiritual gatekeeper of your family. Your spiritual authority does not come from birth order or family traditions. It comes from God's divine purpose for your life. As you walk in this authority, you are tasked with breaking the generational cycles that have held your family captive for so long. This is a weighty responsibility, but you have been chosen because you are equipped for it. God will give you the strength, the discernment, and the courage to fulfill this calling. You are the one who sees, and because you see, you are the one who will lead your family into the freedom that God has promised. As you stand on the threshold of your divine purpose, there's a truth you must fully embrace. The calling God has placed on your life is not an easy one. It's a calling that will demand more from you than you ever thought possible. There will be times when the weight feels too heavy to bear, when the loneliness feels unbearable, when the sacrifices seem endless, and when the misunderstandings from family and those around you make you question your path. But the weight of the calling is not a burden. It is a divine assignment, and with it comes a reward that far surpasses any hardship. The weight of this calling is real. It's not a light thing to be chosen to carry out God's divine purpose. You've already experienced the isolation, the moments when it felt like you were walking alone, misunderstood by those who were closest to you. You've felt the sting of rejection from family who couldn't understand why you were different, why you couldn't just fit into the mold they had for you. Perhaps they didn't see the depth of your vision, the intensity of your passion, or the divine fire that burned within you. Maybe they ridiculed your spiritual journey or questioned your decisions, not realizing that you were following a path that was uniquely yours, chosen and ordained by God. The loneliness that comes with this calling is not something that can be easily explained to others. It's a deep, soul-stirring solitude that comes from the realization that your purpose is greater than just your personal desires. The sacrifices you've made, whether in relationships, comfort, or security, are not easy to endure. There will be moments when you will feel the weight of it all pressing down on you, when you will wonder if it's all worth it. The calling requires a depth of sacrifice, a willingness to lay down your own plans, your own desires, your own comfort in service of something far greater than yourself. But here's the key. The reward that comes with embracing this calling is far greater than any sacrifice you will make. The reward is not always immediate, and it doesn't always come in the form of worldly recognition or approval. The reward is spiritual. It's a legacy of divine inheritance, the peace that comes from walking in alignment with your purpose, the clarity of mind and spirit that comes when you fully surrender to God's will for your life, and the authority to carry out His work on earth. What you are walking toward is a spiritual inheritance that will shape not only your life, but the lives of generations to come. You are being called to leave behind a legacy that will affect your family, your community, and even the world. The misunderstandings you've endured, the rejection you've faced, and the loneliness you've experienced are building your spiritual authority. And while the path is hard, the reward, the fulfillment of your divine purpose, is worth every ounce of sacrifice. When you walk in your divine purpose, the peace you find is not the kind of peace the world gives. It is a peace that transcends circumstances. It's the kind of peace that comes from knowing you are walking in the perfect will of God, even when the road is hard. This peace will surround you, giving you the strength to endure the storms and the clarity to make decisions that align with your spiritual path. Your authority will come not from the approval of others, but from your obedience to God. You are being called to walk in spiritual authority, and that authority does not come from the world, it comes from God. It is a gift that has been given to you, and as you embrace your calling, you will step into the authority that God has ordained for you. This authority will empower you to lead, to guide, and to serve with grace. It will enable you to break the chains of generational curses, to heal wounds that have been passed down through the ages, and to speak truth into places where darkness has held sway for far too long. The weight you carry now will become the mantle of leadership, and the responsibility you feel will become the platform from which you will influence the world. Now, the time has come for you to fully embrace this calling. You are no longer standing at the threshold. You are stepping into it with boldness and confidence, knowing that God has prepared you for this moment. This is your time. You were chosen for such a time as this. And it's time for you to walk in the fullness of the divine purpose that has been written over your life. Stepping into your divine purpose doesn't mean you will have all the answers or that everything will be easy. In fact, it's often the opposite. The road will be challenging, and there will be moments when you feel like giving up. But in those moments, remember that you were not chosen because you were strong on your own. You were chosen because God knew you would trust Him. You were chosen because He knew you would walk by faith, not by sight. Obedience is the key to stepping into your divine purpose. God has already equipped you with everything you need for this journey, but it requires your obedience. It requires your willingness to follow His lead, even when it's hard. Even when the path ahead seems unclear. Even when your family, your friends, or your community might not understand your choices. Obedience is what sets you apart. When you choose to walk in obedience to God, you will begin to see doors open that you never thought possible. Opportunities will present themselves that will allow you to step into your calling with confidence and clarity. But you must remain close to God. You must stay grounded in your relationship with Him, because that is where your strength will come from. There will be moments when the world will try to pull you off course. There will be moments when you'll feel the weight of the opinions and judgments of others pressing down on you. But in those moments, you must hold fast to your identity in Christ. You are not here to please anyone but God. You are not here to seek the approval of those who cannot see your divine calling. You are here to fulfill the purpose that God has set before you, and nothing No one can take that from you. The time has come for you to walk with boldness and confidence in your spiritual identity. You are a child of God, and with that comes the power, authority, and anointing to do the work He has called you to do. The world will try to tell you that you are too small, too weak, too insignificant to make a difference, but God has already equipped you for this. You are not ordinary. You are not common. You have been called, anointed, and appointed for such a time as this. As you step into your divine purpose, the most important thing you can do is remain obedient to God. Obedience is not always easy, but it is always necessary. There will be moments when you'll have to make hard decisions, when you'll have to go against the grain, when you'll have to stand alone. But your obedience will lead you to victory. Obedience means trusting God when you don't have all the answers. It means walking in faith, even when the road ahead is unclear. It means being willing to surrender your own plans, desires, and dreams in order to walk in God's will. Obedience doesn't mean you'll never face hardships. In fact, it often means you'll face challenges you never imagined. But it does mean that you will always have the strength and guidance you need to overcome them, because God's grace is sufficient for every obstacle you face. Stay close to God, and He will guide your steps. The more obedient you are, the clearer your path will become. The more you trust Him, the more He will reveal His plan for your life. Obedience to God will lead you into the fullness of your purpose. And as you step forward in faith, you will experience the peace, the clarity, and the spiritual authority that comes from walking in your divine calling. As you embrace your calling, remember that the weight you carry is not just a burden, it is a divine appointment. The sacrifices, the misunderstandings, and the challenges you've faced are all part of the process of refining you for the greatness that lies ahead. The reward that awaits you is greater than anything you have given up. The spiritual inheritance, the clarity, the peace, and the authority you will walk in are worth every ounce of sacrifice. The time has come to step into your divine purpose. Walk with boldness and confidence, knowing that God has already equipped you for the journey ahead. Stay obedient to His calling, and He will lead you to the place where your purpose is fully realized. Your time is now. Step into it with faith, walk in it with confidence, and know that God's purpose for your life is far greater than anything you've ever imagined. The best is yet to come. As we come to the final moments of this journey together, I want you to pause and reflect on everything you've just heard. Let it settle deeply in your spirit. The path you have walked has not been an accident. The challenges, the rejection, the confusion, they were all part of a divine design. You have been called for a reason, and the weight of your calling is not something to fear, but something to embrace. This is your moment of awakening, your moment to step fully into the life you were always meant to lead. You are the chosen one, and God has equipped you to walk this path with strength, authority, and purpose. Let's take a moment to reflect on the journey we've just explored together. Throughout this message, we've talked about your spiritual calling, a calling that has always been a part of your destiny. From the very beginning, you were set apart not because of your imperfections, but because of the divine purpose woven into your soul. You have been chosen to lead, to guide, and to rise above the ordinary. And as you reflect on your life's journey, you'll realize that every moment of struggle has prepared you for this very purpose. Divine protection has followed you every step of the way. You may have felt alone at times, misunderstood, or rejected, but even in those moments, God was protecting you, refining you, and preparing you for a responsibility that was greater than you could have imagined. The pain you've endured, the trials you've faced, they were never meant to break you. Instead, they were part of the divine process of building your spiritual strength, your resilience, and your ability to stand firm in the face of adversity. And now, as you stand at the threshold of your divine purpose, you can see how every challenge has been a part of the preparation for what lies ahead. As we move forward in life, it's crucial to embrace the responsibility of being chosen. It's a sacred responsibility that requires you to be both a spiritual leader in your family and your community. This role is not about seeking power or recognition. It's about being the light in dark places, the voice that speaks truth when others are silent, and the example of obedience and faith for others to follow. As the chosen one, you are called to lead with humility, compassion, and strength. Your actions, your words, and your decisions will set the tone for those who come after you, and you have been equipped with everything you need to carry this responsibility. I want you to hear this loud and clear. Your struggles were never in vain. Everything you've been through, the rejection, the loneliness, the misunderstandings, was not a sign that you were abandoned. It was preparation. God has been with you through it all, shaping you, guiding you, and equipping you for the greatness He has placed before you. Your journey may not have been easy, but it has been filled with purpose. And now you are on the verge of stepping into the reward of all that you've endured. You were chosen for greatness. You have been prepared for this moment. Your spiritual inheritance, your clarity, your peace, and your authority are already within you. The divine calling on your life has been planted in your spirit, and now it's time for you to walk boldly in that calling, knowing that God has equipped you for this journey. No more doubt, no more hesitation. You are ready. What you've gone through has not been a punishment. It has been a divine training ground. The very things that seemed like obstacles were actually the tools God used to mold you into the person you are today. And as you step into your purpose, you will begin to see the fruits of all that preparation. You will begin to walk in the authority God has placed in you, and doors will open that you never thought possible. This is your time. You are not walking this path alone. God is walking with you, leading you and guiding you every step of the way. Your obedience is what has brought you here, and it will be your obedience that takes you further. The challenges you face moving forward will not be easy, but they will be worth it. Every obstacle, every moment of doubt, and every trial will only serve to strengthen your resolve and build your faith. You are walking into a season of divine favor and spiritual authority, and nothing, no one can take that away from you. As we close this message, I want to invite you to take action. Walk boldly in your calling. Step into your purpose with confidence and strength, knowing that you have been prepared for this moment. You are a spiritual warrior, and the divine purpose that has been planted within you is waiting to be fulfilled. If this message has resonated with your spirit, if it has awakened something inside of you, I encourage you to take the next step. Don't let fear or doubt hold you back. Embrace the calling that has been placed on your life. Walk forward in the authority and strength that God has given you, knowing that He has already gone before you and made a way. I also want to encourage you to share this message. There are others out there who need to hear this truth, who need to be reminded of their divine purpose and calling. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more spiritual insights and confirmation. Let's continue to walk this journey together, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. You are chosen. You are equipped. And now it's time to rise. The world needs you. The world needs your light. Now is your time to shine.